Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Hold the Mic. We are your hosts. I'm Ryan Shead. That's Ian Sherman. Brother, how are you doing?
What up, Doe?
What is up?
Man.
It has been a week, hasn't it?
Man, I'm melting. All right. I'm over here. I'm sending you memes looking like Two-Face from Batman The Dark Knight.
You wouldn't make it here, bro.
Please, no one's making it here. This feels like the rocks from like a sauna. Okay.
Ugh.
Like you just pour some water on us. You're just gonna
It's the humidity. It's the humidity. It's the Michigan humidity.
Just concrete, man. This is concrete. We are literally just heating concrete. This is wild.
That's
my
brutal.
shoes were just melting in the street. I'm just like literally just taking
stroller
steps.
wheels or just you turn it into
I feel like I'm walking in hell. I'm like, this is purgatory. This is it. When did I get hit by a bus? When did I die?
Oh,
when did I
man.
die? Did Iran strike us? What happened? This is what it feels like.
Oh, jeez. You went there already? We're not even a minute in. Jesus. But no, big shout out to everybody. Want to give a special thanks to everybody who's been downloading the podcast in other countries, especially Canada and the UK. I see how many of you are downloading there. Clearly, everybody is focused on what is happening here in the United States and want to have some kind of information. And Ireland, too. Tones, give a special shout out to her. She's been supporting us for pretty much since we started. And she's in Ireland, so
yeah.
She even jumps on every once in a while, even with the time difference. So just want to give a shout out to all our fans. Thank you so much for continuing to support us, amplify our voices. Because you guys amplify our voices, we're able to get really cool guests to come on the show and have conversations with us because they want to educate us and give us a different perspective. And our next guest, he's been on a lot of more conservative shows. But he's really more kind of center of the road, kind of leans both ways, which Ian and I tend to do too.
Don't we all, Ryan? Don't we all?
I mean, hey, that's the way I think it should be. But hey, blind loyalty is not always the best thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true.
With that said, I want to bring up Adam Swart, who is the co-founder of Crowds on Demand. Crowds on Demand is an American publicity firm that provides clients with hired actors to pose as fans, paparazzi, security guards, unpaid protesters, and professional paid protesters. The company operates in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Vegas, New York City, Washington, D.C., Iowa, and New Hampshire, and was founded in 2012. With over a decade of insider experience running campaigns on both the left and right, Adam now exposes how protests are scripted, funded, and weaponized to push political agendas. A staunch free speech advocate, Adam has become a go-to voice on who's really behind the chaos, from billionaire-funded front groups to foreign influence on U.S. soil. So with that, Adam, thank you, sir, for coming on the show. We appreciate you.
Hey, Ryan. Hey,
you, man.
So nice to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man. We've been looking forward to this show for quite a while.
I got so hype when I heard it was you coming on. I was like, oh, no, this is the show. This is the show that I've been waiting for.
It's going to be a good show. I feel like it's always a good show. You guys bring it. So
appreciate that.
It. And it's cool. So that's mostly right. I mean, part of Wikipedia.
Correct me if I got something wrong.
Well, the only thing that Wikipedia gets wrong, not that Wikipedia makes any errors, is that sometimes they kind of, when you say we operate in these locations, people think those are the only locations, but we operate nationwide and selectively internationally as well as the need arises. So that's the only discrepancy. But yeah, I'm happy.
So you guys are pretty much just every major city and even international then.
And even smaller places we operate as well. So we literally operate all over the country. Now, as you can imagine, we operate more in the sort of larger cities as can be guessed. So like something like New York, we're kind of always having stuff going on there.
Yeah. That's why like the New Hampshire, like in Iowa made sense to me because there's so much politically that goes there. Yeah.
Correct. Exactly. So initially we launched in a lot of those markets, but we've expanded to be nationwide.
Good. No, that's great.
Is there anything international that you guys are participating with?
Ooh, good question. Well,
so internationally we do publicity events, but we don't so much do protests. And I'll tell you why. And it's because the free speech laws are different in every country.
Ooh, right. Okay.
I mean, I can see how that would be hard for you to get everybody in Denmark,
Right. I mean, not that it would be hard to generate the crowd, but you'd have to navigate a whole series of laws that I'm not necessarily familiar with. So in the sense of, I'm very familiar with American law, but in terms of like Danish law. Or, for example, in the UK, you could get sued or criminally charged for incitement for saying outrageous things in a protest, and people have been. So that's kind of to me, that's sort of a challenge. So we mostly operate domestically, other than for kind of a publicity events. We'll go abroad.
But it makes sense because that's why the Trump administration, his boys, baby cokehead, they couldn't find the right protesters to be there for the footage that they were looking for, and they couldn't find any allies except for homeless people and what they had to, promote to get a little bit of footage that they got. But it clearly was a flop. Then they got ran out of the town. So that's the only reason why I bring that up.
What protest was this? This
was the one that they were trying to create of saying that Denmark wanted Trump to.
Oh, the Greenland thing. Yeah.
Thing. Yes.
Well, that's always been kind of this like odd tangent.
Right.
This Greenland thing that there aren't a lot of. It's not easy to arrange something in Greenland because there aren't a lot of people.
At all. It's like no, it's not to that magnitude. Not with
more than half of them don't want you there.
Correct.
Well, yeah, they're sort of divided. There are people who want to be independent. There are people who want to be part of Denmark. There are people who are open to being part of the U.S. It's an awkward situation. Greenland's a very poor country that shouldn't be poor. So, the dynamics of Greenland look a lot like the dynamics of a lot of rural Trump-favored areas. So it's not inconceivable that they would want to support Trump and support
very similar demographic.
But I've never been there, so I don't know. But I wouldn't dismiss it. As with everything with Trump, there's a ridiculousness to him, but there's also sort of he has this sort of animalistic sense of things that
his showmanship his instincts are on point.
His instincts
he knows.
Very good.
You got to give him that. There's no ands or buts.
And their branding. I may not like the message, but they're good at freaking.
No, that's what he
does.
It out. Marketing is his thing, and it's and I wish the Democrats could actually learn that from him.
Well, and
tell him again, Ian.
The ICE raids and stuff. I think of Trump as. Have you guys seen bullfighting? There's a guy waving the red flag and the bull comes.
Yeah.
Right? Trump is the guy who knows exactly when to wave that red flag, right? So he's having this battle with Elon Musk, right? And he's having this whole battle with Elon Musk, and then boom, these ICE raids happen, right? And he knows exactly how to taunt the left and how to get the left distracted. So
redirect. There you go.
If you're close to a point that he doesn't want to be talked about, such as Elon Musk, he knows he has 50 different tricks up his sleeve where he can pull his rabbit out of the hat and create another issue to get the media. Steve Bannon, you guys know who that is, right?
Yeah.
The strategist. That's clear Bannon's strategy of basically I think he basically overwhelmed the floodgates.
That's
Give
right.
them too many stories so that they cannot possibly
they can't fixate on anything, and that's where and Ryan and I have talked about that. What the importance of this show is to slow the tempo, because we do understand that they're going to open the floodgates. They're going to try to distract. It's a good thing I'm ADD because I can get uber hyper focused on certain things. And Ryan and I have talked about how we need to slow the tempo, because this is what it is. We're only in the second quarter. I'm sorry, we're in the third quarter and we're heading into the fourth, and it's like we need to be paying attention to what's kind of happening all around. And as all these distractions are happening, the situation that's happening here in New York with Rockland County, with the votes, the tabulation, you're talking about this big, beautiful bill where it's going to cut a lot of people's Medicaid. A lot of things are happening that we're not discussing that we should be talking about. But then you look at all of this distraction, and he's a master. It's a master class of distraction, really. And you got to give him that credit. You really do.
Yeah.
He's a media genius.
Or whore, whatever, either word.
They're not mutually exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive. I think the whole way he's become famous and powerful in the first place was knowing how to use the media, right? He was actually never
Epstein, either one. Again, tomato.
He was never particularly successful in real estate, right?
Yeah.
Real estate investments were a flop. However, his media was actually his apprentice. I think he was getting tens of millions of dollars a year, maybe more for The Apprentice. And
The Apprentice kept him afloat and relevant. Yeah.
Correct. And his real estate was actually mostly a flop. So he's a media master. He's not a master businessman, but he's so good at portraying. So, I mean, again, I'm not even saying that as an insult to the guy.
No, 100%.
But you need to understand that you're dealing with a master strategist in a way, but he doesn't look like a strategist, but he has
sound like one.
No. He has amazing instincts. You know what I mean?
Brand, right?
It's the same way, like if you have a dog, the dog can tell that there's food like a quarter mile away. You know what I mean? So does that make your dog a genius? Like, not necessarily, but he knows something that you don't know. I don't know if there's food a quarter mile away. I couldn't possibly sniff that. Trump can sniff that. You know what I mean? And that's what makes him a genius at what he does. And the Democrats are just constantly being outsmarted by him, and they constantly underestimate him as well.
I don't think I underestimate him. I think I underestimated how many people would be willing to vote for somebody like him.
Yeah,
I think that's what I
but they bought into the brand. You know what I mean? It's
like Adam's saying. They bought into the messaging. But again, you what you really said, Adam, that I like that you pointed out was that he wasn't particularly successful within real estate, and so many of the buildings that ended up having his name on them were actually just brand deals that were done with him. Exactly. And the buildings were actually owned by a completely different, investment group or person or whatever. But they're like, having that Trump name on the side of the building was worth X amount of dollars to them per year
during that show.
And that's all it was. He never built anything. He built like one building in New York, I think.
Even Trump steaks and all of these sort of hokey businesses were basically, again, they called them franchise deals, right? He was building franchise because his brand was associated for a certain segment of the population with prestige, with entrepreneurship,
business deals,
whatever, right? And again, there's a whole debate of whether he deserves that recognition or not, but he capitalized on it and he made that recognition. Yeah. So he knows how to run sort of a show. And when you look at fools like Chuck Schumer and what is he calling him? Like Taco? Like, what have you seen this lately?
Taco. Yeah, Trump always chickens out. I mean, who doesn't love Taco Tuesday?
It's just not a very good slogan.
It's not a good slogan, but it's funny. I mean, but that's more liberal humor. You know what I mean? It's not.
Still pissed him off.
It does piss him off.
He's posted about it 10 times.
I mean, I will say though, flying a plane over Mar-a-Lago and writing taco is actually hilarious.
Yeah, no, I think he doesn't like to be perceived that way.
Right.
But he's good at creating the show, and I think he's So,
but again, there's a hypocrisy there though, because the same trolling, if it was being done by MAGA to libs, would be viewed as genius if it was coming from his camp. So that's where again, let's not forget that there's a shit ton of hypocrisy here where they hold liberals and Democrats to a much different standard than they hold their own parties to. Because again, I'm just going to say this for everybody listening in case you forgot. Donald Trump is a convicted felon. He's a prolific business fraud. He's an adjudicated sexual abuser and an accused pedophile. So that's who people were willing to vote for. I don't give a shit how anybody justifies their vote saying, oh, but he's so good at business. But
he also doesn't pay his vendors.
Doesn't pay his vendors. Yeah, he still owes Tucson, Arizona, $89,182. Yeah. Just saying.
That's the police, right?
For pretty much everything it encompassed, his security for the event, all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Mayor Romero wrote him a letter when the last time he came to Arizona campaigning in 2024 and said, by the way, we'd still like our money. And you can't come back to Tucson until you pay us.
And you wonder why he's staging his shootings in Pennsylvania in backfields.
Shootings?
Assassination attempts?
Oh, Jesus. Stay away from that. Let's get
Anyways, all right. Yeah. Wait, real quick. Adam, was that one of yours?
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I'm not trying to.
Don't put him in that.
Do not answer. Plead the fifth. Do not answer me right now.
Don't answer me. But no, in all seriousness, one of the reasons I was most excited to bring you on was because I've been going out to protests here in Arizona, And so I was just really interested to hear, your side of things, because if you go back to before the election here on the show, we were showing, Kamala Harris rallies, and we were talking about, the pro-Palestinian protesters that were showing up to her events, but never seemed to show up to Trump events.
That's right.
And so that combined with all the protesting we're seeing right now is why I thought this was really the perfect, it was just serendipitous timing that, you reached out to us when you did. And so I just think it's great timing to have this conversation of, how do you spot these people? How do we know what we're looking at? And, what are some of the things that we've already seen that maybe folks didn't realize that this was what was happening?
Well, there's a lot to unpack. I mean, I think it's important to separate peaceful and law-abiding protesters from violent agitators, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, I say this to the right, I say it to the left. It's important to put those two in a different camp. And part of the reason why I actually kind of welcome the opportunity to come on shows like yours and right-wing shows is to dispel some of the myths about about Crowds on Demand. So my company is Crowds on Demand. We're the largest protest company in the country, right? So Crowds on Demand is regularly accused, but falsely, of having rioters, vandals, all this sort of thing. We only engage in peaceful, law-abiding protests, right? Even if I had no moral qualms about the other stuff, it wouldn't benefit me as a business person to do those things, right? So first of all, it's very important to kind of make that known, right? So
plus the legality of it, I would assume too, liability wise.
Exactly. We have no interest in doing illegal protests. And by the way, we live in a country that has free speech. There's no need to engage in illegal forms of protest.
Right, good point.
Feel so fortunate living in the United States where we have the right to protest and speak our mind legally. So there's no need to do it illegally. So I guess the other thing, so I just wanted to sort of say that first. So to put a distinction between people who might be actually agitating. Now,
context is good. Yeah.
No, in terms of paid demonstrators, I guess I have a controversial theory, which is that every demonstrator is incentivized. So payments are one form of incentive, right? But there are other forms of incentive. So think about Woodstock, the Vietnam protesters, right? A bunch of college students. Yeah, but a lot of those guys were just there to get laid and smoke pot, right? So it's like... were they there? I mean, did they believe in the Vietnam War protesting? Okay, I'm not saying they don't, but was getting laid and smoking pot not why they're there? I mean, or MAGA rallies. They're basically like fairs. They're like county fairs now with vendors, and they're like cultural gatherings, right? I mean, people think about all the Real Housewives of Orange County who were out at the Black Lives Matter rally. I mean, you think they know anything about institutional racism? I mean, they don't know shit, right? So
most probably don't.
They've suffered, Adam. They've suffered.
I mean, Bronwyn Wyndham Burke from Real Housewives of Orange County was out there being Black Lives Matter. It's girl, you live in a 7,000 square foot mansion, just don't try to say you know anything about this stuff. Right. So I guess and again, not trying to say that those people don't have the right to be there. They should be there. But how is trying to troll for Instagram likes or trying to kind of get laid at a rally any different from being compensated to attend an event? One thing we found, by the way, number one, at least for Crowds on Demand, so I can only speak for myself, the people who we provide are always passionate about the cause. We essentially pay people to show up in furtherance of their views, but these are views they already have, if you see what I'm saying. Yeah. They're not getting paid so much that they would go to an opposing rally. I mean, I think
that's a good question.
Well, you're not paying Ryan to go to a Trump rally, not to be there and have that kind of.
It would take a lot of money.
But that's what I'm saying is, I'm just.
You couldn't do it, Ryan. I'm taking bets right now. You couldn't do it.
Emotionally, probably not.
You couldn't do it.
Which you would, but
a Ryan rant would happen within 5 seconds.
But no, seriously, real quick though, before we move on, because I think that's important. How much typically are people that are being paid to show up? How much are they getting paid?
In the hundreds of dollars. Now, again, I can only speak for Crowds on Demand. We have articulate demonstrators who are passionate about the subject, well-dressed, respectably dressed. They can explain the subject matter.
So you have a vetting process of some sort.
A very strong, I like to call it a reverse jury questionnaire. Jury questionnaire tries to make sure you're unbiased. I want you to be biased in favor of the subject matter. So if it's an environmentalist rally, I want to make sure that you're in support of the environment, right? So to me, that's really important, is having, qualified protesters who are passionate about the issue, articulate, and enthusiastic to show up.
Okay. So where's some events over the last, particularly I would say heading into the 2024 election, where are some events that we would have seen? Because I know you're not, and I wouldn't ask you to reveal like your actual clients or anything, but hopefully you could tell us like protests where we would have seen maybe some of your people.
Well, what I would say is this: every protest has paid activists involved. So let me just to expand on what I was saying. So a few other categories. So typically, if you work in politics, let's just say you work a 9-to-5 job as a legislative staff member, right? That's your job. You're generally still expected to attend rallies for your political side on your off-duty time. That's not technically part of your job description, but if you're regularly campaigning and attending events and protesting and engaging in activism on the side, you're going to find that you advance in politics. If you basically just show up 9 to 5 and you never participate, you won't, right? So a lot of the people you see, whether it's a Republican rally or a Democratic rally, are actually staffers for that party. Right. So that is, I would call that a paid activist. Right. So number one. Number two, labor unions regularly do this. Right. If you show up, if you're a labor union member and you go to all their events, you're going to end up getting good shifts with the union. And if you don't, you're going to end up like getting, graveyard shifts. Right. So the point is, I guess what I want to say is that every protest is a paid protest. And there is no such thing as an unpaid protest, because we're all getting paid or incentivized in some way, shape, or form.
So do you have like a spectrum of like who's a great protester that you like always call versus like, okay, this person's mediocre or entry, very green, as in hasn't done this before? Is that a spectrum where you're like, call so-and-so, bring him and 5 guys, or, him and whoever the demographic is? Is there like a casting call? I need more black. I need more this. I need more that. I need gender. Like, is that a thing when it comes to this?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And I don't mean it even in a bad way. Like, for example, we've done a lot of events like for women's causes, right? Like, let's just say there's a accused sex offender or someone who's kind of involved in those sort of things. There are women who've done great work for us, who are really passionate about those issues, right? Who can speak to the heart of those issues, who we compensate for their time, but are very passionate about those types of issues, right? They're environmentalists who we have who are passionate about those issues. They're pro-law enforcement people who are passionate about those issues. So yes, if we have certain causes, we know, hey, this type of person is going to be really good for this type of cause. So it's casting in a way, but it's basically saying, hey, these are the ambassadors we want for.
But you're at least casting, you're at least sending people that, like you say, are going to be either interested or engaged with said topic. And I think that's an interesting context to add to people like me who, we're just learning the inside of this.
Right.
Yeah.
But we've always speculated it though, Ryan. We've always, when we talk about the, Free Palestine only at Kamala's rallies, and you're like, where is this at?
Yeah. Why
is it not at a Trump rally at all?
There's reasons for that, right? So I think that's a strategic reason. So
for sure.
This is a
and it worked, by the way.
By the way, this is a Bannon tactic. Interestingly, so when Steve Bannon started when he took over Breitbart News, he basically said Breitbart, previous to Bannon, was regularly railing on Nancy Pelosi, and they said, no, we don't want to do that. Nancy Pelosi wants us to cover her negatively. We're going to cover people on the right who aren't pure enough, right? Because that is we can have more of an impact pushing Republicans to the right than we can railing on Democrats who aren't
clearly never coming over.
reading Breitbart anyway, right?
Right.
So similarly, if you're a Palestine person, right, I would say that was actually a very good tactic. Now, had Kamala won, so what they were trying to do is bring her to the left on that issue, and they were trying to basically say, hey, you need our support, you better give us some concessions. I mean, it ended up fracturing the Democratic coalition and actually leading to kind of Trump and being one of the factors that helped Trump. But there was a case to say, hey, maybe this would have actually pushed Kamala toward that direction. Because I know a lot of people who were turned off by the fact that Kamala was perceived as too pro-Israel, you know.
A little dismissive towards the protesters, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I mean, who's really sitting there at a rally trying to sit here and listen to somebody? I mean, clearly doesn't happen at a Trump rally. My question is, how many paid supporters are there for Jill Stein? Because I haven't seen or heard from her in how long. So I'm just wondering,
Like
who's
Groundhog
banking
Day.
that? Is that Putin money, or who's banking for those protesters who are rallying
I'm
for her?
reluctant to make any claims that I can't directly.
Just wink at me, Adam. Just wink at me.
There-
That's all I need.
Blink twice.
But it's very interesting. I mean, I think that, again, my kind of big take, I mean, I'm obviously biased because my whole business is compensating demonstrators, but my opinion is there's nothing wrong with being compensated. If you hire a lawyer, right? Let's just say you're a liberal. You want a liberal lawyer to advance your liberal cause. You would still probably expect that you would be compensating that lawyer, right?
Right.
I mean, so what's so different about compensating a protester? Similarly, I mean, like look at like Tucker Carlson or Rachel Maddow, right? They both make 8 figures to speak their mind, but they're generally given the benefit of the doubt that their point of view that they espouse is their sincere point of view. Right. So if they can make tens of millions of dollars per year and generally be given the benefit of the doubt of their sincerity, why are you telling me, not you, but generally, that a demonstrator who's making a few $100s like isn't sincere? I think that's crazy. That's madness.
Yeah.
You know, I actually agree with that. I think the only issue I see is the PR side of it, which is it's become the fake news thing, which is, oh, those are just paid protesters.
Well,
it's become a way to dismiss
A taboo,
people. And so for here in Arizona, like I wasn't paid, and I know my brother-in-law wasn't paid, and we've been going out to, you know, we were out for the No Kings protest, and we actually had 2 protests the same day. And it was one where we all showed up in person, and then later we did like a motorcade, and we ended up like shutting down 14 miles of Tucson. Like it was insane. And people were actually walking around and had on their cars, "I am not a paid protester." So it was like you're seeing some of that. But, you know, I know not everybody out there is paid, but I'm sure there are plenty that are, you know, and I see people applauding. I applauded a lot of people were walking around carrying around water, sunscreen, whatever. You know, I wonder if some of those folks are being paid. And if they are, great. I'm glad they're making a few bucks being out. No, not at all. 100%.
I guess that's my thing is, what is wrong with that? Like whether
Nothing.
they're pro-Trump or pro or no or on the left, why should someone be expected to pass out water and sunscreen for free? Why is it unreasonable for someone to pay for water and sunscreen?
Very logical.
Why is it unreasonable?
And if I was organizing, I would have no problem paying said person to keep everybody hydrated. Yeah, 100%.
I think there's a misnomer, Ryan and Ian, and the misnomer is the concept that protest is a poll. So if there are 200 people who show up in favor of a cause and 50 people who show up in opposition to the cause, there's this idea, well, the people support it 4-1. Well, that's not how protests work at all, right? What a protest is for is to raise awareness of an issue, right? It then has to fly on its own. I mean, every cause from the civil rights, gay rights, MAGA, Tea Party, they've all been BLM. They've all been backed by like hundreds of millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
And without that money, those movements would have never succeeded. But ultimately, without resonating with the people, they wouldn't have succeeded anyway, right? So like, look at so money makes sure people can pay. So paying protesters, organizing protests, all this stuff, it makes sure people pay attention to what you're doing. But ultimately, the movement still has to have resonance.
Yeah.
And by the way, and as an example of why money does not equal success, look at Jeb Bush, right? Remember Jeb? I think he raised $200 million, $200 million
back then, yeah.
And I think he got like 2%.
Yeah, it was low. It was really low.
Everyone knew who Jeb Bush was. What the money bought him was the name awareness, right? I mean, obviously his name helped too, but it wasn't necessarily a good name. But the point is, everyone knew who Jeb Bush was. Every single Republican voter, they didn't not vote for Jeb.
I was a Democrat and I knew who he was.
Right, correct. But so the money helped, but ultimately his message didn't resonate. So I guess to the point that protesting and all this stuff, it doesn't manipulate people. What it does is it forces awareness. And then from the awareness, the movement then has to resonate.
Yep.
So is there like a point? When I think about this, I think about it from even like the Tea Party, right? And not the one we know in our lifetime. I mean, the original Boston Tea Party. Yeah, that was a protest. Clearly, that was funded by. That was clearly an attack on.
Very much funded.
You know, and when you think about how that really had a shock effect for the whole system to understand and resonate, it really spoke to the entire generation. Clearly, to where we are today. But when you look at that, I guess it really is one of those things where you're like, well, is every protest like? Is there? I mean, you really now are making me kind of think about that. Like, it isn't like it just started. This has always been there. It's been funded.
I'm not that much of a genius that I started the whole podcast.
Oh, give yourself some credit, Adam. Come on.
Activism. And that's such a good example, Ian, when you're referring to the original Tea Party, the Boston Tea Party. There's a gentleman by the name of Sam Adams, right, who was basically the Breitbart of that era. He published newspapers where he was saying things that were not actually true, right? So this whole taxation without representation, funnily enough, the British actually did offer us representation in their parliament and it was rejected. And we just kept but the media, the revolutionary media,
the Twitter of its time
kept saying no taxation without representation.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, I'm not sitting here to shill for George III.
No, I think that was a great clip we just got.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
That's
like
brilliant.
I said, that's
that really
educating.
Is.
And
you
know, you said something and it sparked a thought. And it was the same thing with Bush and Gore in 2000. Was Al Gore's message just never resonated with voters. You know, he was so factual and he forgot that people vote also using their feelings. You have to appeal to their feelings as well.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would argue the Democrats still don't do very well. You know, it's like you can spout all the facts off like a professor all you want. That's not going to win voters. And so, like you said, I love how you said that because it really is about that, how you can reach, you know, somebody, a voter, a protester, whatever. And so I'm glad you said that.
Well, I have this weird theory that the whole we're on an alternate timeline right now where Al Gore was supposed to win. Now,
that's the nexus. Is that where we're at?
That's funny.
That's that nexus
environment. Like, if you really think about, we had Al Gore. That election was probably stolen, right? I mean, is that kind of like
the Supreme Court interrupted it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of bullshit, right? With the Supreme Court, right? I mean, and this is just an objective point, right? Like as an independent, I will say Kennedy stole the 1960 election. Let's be honest, right? Mayor Daley of Chicago, right? That election was stolen from Nixon, but 2000 was stolen from Al Gore, right? Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's water under the bridge. But if you think about it, right, from there, you had 9/11, right, which Bush failed to prevent, which he should have prevented. The information was out there, right? The pointless war in Afghanistan, the pointless war in Iraq, right? The global recession, right? Like we're on and from the pointless wars, we had a refugee influx, which essentially led to Europe being overwhelmed with refugees, which led to the rise of the far right in Europe as a reaction to those refugee influx, right? And the rise of the far right in Europe essentially predated the rise of Trumpism in the United States, right? So essentially everything that is happening currently is due to George W. Bush. And George W. Bush is probably one of the worst presidents in American history because he just messed up everything he touched with his, you know what I mean? I mean, it's insane. I mean, I'm glad.
And then came Trump.
Well, I think Trump is.
It doesn't change anything you just said, by the way. But yeah.
Right. I mean, I guess my point is, it's too early to evaluate Trump. With George W. Bush, it's been 20 years. We can evaluate and his grade.
You can see how it reverberates.
See that's the ripple effects.
You're
right.
There.
We haven't fully understood. I mean, it's Trump is to me still TBD because like the sort of positive case for Trump is like Andrew Jackson, right? I mean, Andrew Jackson was not an ethical man. He was president of the United States. For those of you who aren't history buffs like me, former president of the United States, he kind of brokered deals with the Indians, but he expanded our country west, right, in a very kind of unethical manner. But he took a ton of territory, and it was probably overall good for the United States. You guys see what I'm saying?
Didn't he renege though on Lincoln's deal with 40 acres and a mule?
No, this was before Abraham Lincoln. So Andrew Jackson, I'm not talking about Andrew. That's Andrew Johnson. So
Johnson, I'm thinking of Johnson.
Was in I believe it was the 1820s as he was president.
Yes, thank you for that correction.
Basically, we had a treaty with the Cherokee Indians, right, where we would give them their sovereignty. And Andrew Jackson basically said, fuck it. Supreme Court, the Cherokee Nation took the United States to Supreme Court and they won. But the Andrew Jackson said the Chief Justice has made a decision, let him enforce it. So basically, he took over the Cherokee Nation. He took over. He was very unethical in dealing with the Indians. But ultimately, 150, plus 200 years later, almost, we're actually probably benefiting from Andrew Jackson's actions.
Right. We have guacamole. That's where we're at.
So I think the positive case for Trump is maybe he's not unethical. Maybe he is unethical, rather, but he ultimately is Machiavellian and it benefits us. So so my point is it's too early to say. George W. Bush was, I think it's pretty clear, very damaging to the United States.
Right.
Like, I'm not talking about on an ethical level. I'm talking about on a just pure practical level, regardless of party. I mean, there's a reason why Republicans have ditched George W. Bush, right? I mean, so like,
it's fractured our foothold in the world. I mean, really, his presidency.
On top of increased our debt quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, what I'm hearing from you, though, Adam, is that if we would have got Al Gore, we would have flying cars right now. We would look like the Jetsons.
That's
what I'm getting from you.
But it would have. I just feel like it would have been better.
Just tell me. Just whisper sweet nothings in our ear.
I think it would have led us down. I think it would have led us down a better path, and I think it would have somewhat stopped Republicans from continuing to try to basically steal these elections. Because once they get away with it it's like, well, shit.
I mean,
and how many times did Democrats win the popular vote and then somehow lose?
I mean, look, we're still waiting for this reverberation to see what happens with these court cases. But I mean, we are strong believers after looking at No Kings versus whatever that circus parade, Cirque du Soleil Trump was. It's those squeaky wheels, man. Just play the squeaky wheels in silence. Those tanks, just so good.
Dick measuring contest. Like, I just feel like
that's exactly what it was.
It really is.
Here's the thing about the United States of America: we don't have to show off our shit. We know we're powerful. We don't need to do the.
One of the worst jokes / memes I saw this past week was Iran is about to learn why we don't have health care. And I just laughed. I literally burst out laughing, and I just thought to myself, like, yeah, all of our money goes towards destruction.
Yeah, like, and they seem to be fine with that.
And we're all fine with it. And then we doubled down on it. Think about how many vets or how many members of service voted for Trump. When you look at the exit polling.
Way too many.
They voted
70+%.
Yeah.
They voted for this. And so it's like, if they're going to go to war, it's like, well, good luck to you, brother. You're signed up. Good luck.
Yep.
Well, I think that to me, one of the things is like, and I'm a passionate believer in the United States, like in the world, and I would say like the challenge is like we don't need to do military parades. Weak countries do military parades to show off what they don't have, right? It's kind of like the guy
trying to intimidate. Yeah,
it's like the guy in Miami pulling up in like a rented Lamborghini and like a fake Armani suit, like to the nightclub,
just trying to stunt.
Is that guy rich?
Right.
Or is the guy in Vineyard Vines in the Hamptons rich? Right. You know what I mean?
It's a homeless dude that you really don't realize that looks like Bill Gates that's just walking down the street, tethered clothes. You're like, that's the guy who's actually has the money. It's like,
Correct.
That's why I look homeless chic in these streets in New York. That's what I do.
Well, you just never know. I mean,
you never know. You never know.
I mean, the different, like Jack Dorsey looks like a homeless person.
I did date one homeless girl once, but we're never going to talk about that.
Well,
it happened in whatever. It was. She told me she loved it.
This isn't therapy, bro.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
No comment on that.
This is a paid.
Maybe it should be.
This is paid.
So before we let you go, I wanted to ask a couple of questions. So my thing, like, if you could put just a random percentage, would you say it's like 50-50, Dem Republican of who pay all these protesters? Like, is it pretty even on both sides, or
it's even?
Is it?
It's very even. It's very even because I would say that it just makes sense. I mean, it's like advertising or any other strategy. Like, it's like any other part of a campaign. You need people to turn out, and you have to compensate them in one way or another. Again, my whole premise is that all people are compensated in a way. So let me just work you through kind of an interesting example, right? So like, let's take, and again, feel free to disagree with me on this, but I have one example is this. Let's just imagine the most seemingly quote unquote grassroots idea, which is 4 moms come together and say, we have outdated books at our kids' school. We want to kind of protest and push the board to have like new books.
Good example.
So, okay, so those moms, they go, they make signs, they make phone calls, they all come together and they have signs, and then they all show up on Tuesday night to the local school board meeting, and they rally, and then they go speak, and then they have wine afterward. So okay, that sounds grassroots, right? But what you just witnessed was a paid demonstration. How? Well, I guarantee you those moms were not housekeepers. I guarantee you they did not work at McDonald's, right? They were not any kind of hourly workers except maybe attorneys, right? They either had flex jobs or were stay-at-home moms. So there was someone putting bread on the table so that they could engage in that form of activism, right? So that was what you just witnessed there, was a form of paid activism, because essentially that would not be open to working class moms. This was a privileged upper middle class mom way of showing your support. You see what I'm saying?
What you're touching on is really interesting, because in the Black community, we've always talked about how the civil rights movement was funded by the church, Black churches, and how it was a family dynamic, father, mother, the whole situation with their kids, and they couldn't necessarily always be in the streets, but they could raise enough donations, raise enough funding, do the cookouts, do all the things to then support all those, the Martin Luther Kings, the Johnsons, and when you're looking at this whole situation unfold, you then lead to seeing why crack hit the Black communities harder, because it was harder than with a broken family dynamic where they didn't have this extra income coming in. This has always kind of been talked about within the Black community. I mean, you're hearing it here first, ladies and gentlemen. I hold the mic. If you don't know anything about the Black community, but in the context, there was always this conversation about why there was a war on the Black family dynamic, why Black men are always targeted from elementary school. And I am saying this correctly, from elementary school at a higher percentage, they are kicked out of classrooms more than anybody else in the classroom. It starts there, and it
I
leads to.
saw that in person.
Yeah, well, thanks for not sticking up for me back in high school. So when you're looking at that,
Thought that's why we did this show, bitch.
Hi, Mom. We're doing just fine. But when you're looking at that dynamic and you're looking and seeing how breaking up certain, like we just talked about with the whole Arab community with the Democrats, now that this is a fracture within those parties and those lines, I'm questioning Arabs for Trump, aka now Arabs for Peace. They changed their name about 1 month into Trump becoming president. I think we should all check in on them. How are they doing? But it's one of those things where you see that fracture happen and see what's now breaking apart these families. The Latin men who voted for Trump, how are things working out for you? When you're looking at certain elements that are there, but you're looking at how it's now targeting certain communities as well. Yeah. That's going to break up the dynamic that it's almost embedded in our DNA of as a community taking care of one another. So yes, it is paid if the mother has, the income coming her way, or the mom is a lawyer and she can now put out her business and promote it because she's protesting for the books, as you're putting out there. So that's free publicity, right? Yeah. But at the same time, when I think of what you're talking about versus like what we saw at Columbia, what we're seeing in New York, at what point do these kind of protests get out of line? Did these protests turn anti-Semitic? When we're looking at that, is it paid protests and then it just goes south? Is it good trouble versus, well, we didn't really pay for that service?
Ian. I think it's outside agitators that corrupt a lot of these protests, right? Yeah. And some of them are paid, and some of them are just like, I hate to
anarchists.
Say psychopaths. They're anarchist psychopaths who attach themselves to MAGA, and they'll attach themselves to left-wing protests because they just want to burn shit, right? Yeah. And if they can do it while claiming immunity because they're doing it for some
covering their face,
right? So number one, and then number two, of course, they're true anti-Semites around, and I think that they have been emboldened lately because. Right. But I think I think there are two things about this anti-Semitism thing, which is interesting, right? Number one, I think there are true anti-Semites, right, who now are finding that it's acceptable to air out anti-Semitism.
Comfortable, right? Yep.
And number two, I think there's been a major miscalculation by the ADL and AIPAC in trying to label. It's the same calculation that the left did with calling everything racist, right? If you call everything anti-Semitic, then nothing is anti-Semitic. Right. If you call everything racist, then nothing is racist.
It loses its power.
Yeah.
Anti-Semitism, if you call criticizing Netanyahu's war in Gaza, right? And okay, have a debate about it. But if you call criticizing that war anti-Semitic, then you've lost your legitimacy to talk about anti-Semitism. It's like when you call someone racist because you feel they committed a microaggression because they crossed the street when a black person was walking down the road. It's like, well, how do you know if that was racist or not, right? So it's like if you call something racist all the time, it's the boy who cries wolf. And I think that AIPAC and the ADL have made a major calculation and constantly calling everything anti-Semitic, and now they're being laughed at of like, oh yeah, they're sure this is anti-Semitic when okay, now there actually really is anti-Semitism.
Right. Why is it that liberals' words always lose power, but Republicans and Trump voters don't? Like they've been using fake news for 10 years now. And that never seems to lose its.
Well, by the way, that was a liberal term. The left started the term news to refer to misinformation around, like, remember the pizza game?
And then MAGA took it.
Yeah. Like woke. MAGA's trying to use woke now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that CRT, critical race theory, they're trying to, they try to hijack and manipulate what the word is, and they really do stretch it out, and then they make it their own thing, whatever they want it to be. But that's their marketing. They're great at marketing. And Dems need to learn. They need to learn from this. But
Democrats are good at culture. The Republicans are good at marketing. I mean, I think the Democrats have always won the culture wars. But I think in terms of, now I think the culture, the challenge is that the culture war has has gone a little too far. I mean, with the transgender issues and stuff, have now
Right.
kind of pushed a lot of moderates to be like, whoa, I have no idea what this stuff is, and
Right.
it's pushed on me. So but
So
historically,
let's ban it instead of educating ourselves.
let's what?
Let's ban it instead of educating
Well,
ourselves.
I mean,
Well, you know, again, but
really-
before I go there, I mean, you got to realize that we're looking at 0.9% to 1.1% of our population. And we started a complete fear campaign,
Yeah.
you know, based off of that. People that are against transgender people, like you just said, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So, like, when you look at the NCAA and they question them and they said, so you guys oversee 500,000+ student athletes every year. Can you guys tell us how many of them are trans? And they said
That's terrible.
less than 10, more than 5, less than 10. So all
Hey,
this
1%.
bullshit,
10.
when you've only got 2 or 3 transgender athletes that you can constantly use over and over and over again, it's not really a big fucking problem.
it's
It's a
big, but
culture war that's being used, and a bunch of people saying it's being pushed on you. No, what's being pushed on people is getting their genitalia checked in bathrooms and having cops go into ladies' restrooms now, and Republicans seem to think that that's fucking okay.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, I'm in favor of private stalls because I don't want to.
There already are private stalls in women's restrooms. They
Yeah,
don't have stand-up urinals in women's bathrooms.
I think the right has made a big deal of this, and
Yes.
Nancy Mace in particular has taken it. I know. Do you guys know who that is?
Oh,
She's a
yes,
woman.
yes. We talk. Me and Nancy, we talk at least once a month.
Yeah, she's. I mean, she's obviously like going through something. I don't know. Like,
Oh, she's crazy.
I mean, like her rhetoric is just mean. And interestingly enough, she used to be kind of like a reasonable person. So her rhetoric has just become mean. And I've told my Republican friends, I'm like, what is she accomplishing? Like, I think there has
Even
to
the
be
right is starting to
conversation.
distance themselves from her.
Yeah, I mean, she's obviously like seems mentally. I mean, I don't know.
She's
I-
trying
I-
to fit-
Look, I'm
she's trying to fit in
bipolar. I'm
mega.
telling you, she needs the same medication I'm on.
But no, but she's trying to fit within the you know the square box that is mega now. You know what I mean? She was a different shape, and that's the thing where when you're in a race to the bottom, she's trying to do whatever sticks, and because she sees it work for Trump, she sees
Yeah.
it work for specific people, and like Jim Jordan, you know, she sees things work,
Yeah.
and she's like, oh, okay, I want that, but she doesn't realize she needs to find her own niche and bring that to the table and
Yeah,
and
she's
carve
a
herself
smart
out.
woman. She's a smart woman, and I think there's a nuanced way to talk about these things.
Right.
And I think we need nuance. Like you can't just have one side yelling tranny and the other side yelling transphobe, homophobe. Like, and I
It
think
doesn't
that's-
accomplish anything.
it doesn't accomplish anything because I think you have to have sort of a reasoned discussion. Because look, I think the idea of a 10-year-old transitioning before they like hit puberty, I mean that's an uncomfortable subject that I will admit I'm like
But where's it happening?
at schools all over. I mean, there are these gender counselors who are at schools who talk about kind of transitioning and like hormone therapy for 12.
Have you ever heard of the
Yes.
woman called Plastic Martyr?
No.
I'm going to send you her information. She
Yeah.
is a transgender actress and is a friend of mine. And when I realized that I was very ignorant when it came to the transgender community, I made a point to go out and find some friends. And she was one of the first ones I made. And she opened my eyes because one of the questions I asked her privately, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, is when did you know that something was off?
Yeah.
Like, when did you feel like you weren't who you were supposed to be? And she said 8. She said, I knew when I was 8. And she actually sent me.
It's a complicated issue that I don't necessarily.
But do you see what I'm saying? It's like
I see what you're
so
saying.
many people don't understand. Like, yeah, you can know that something's off when you're 8, 10 years old, and to not have counselors.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. A lot of people say, well, it's a mental illness. You're right. It's called gender dysphoria. So is it really American or compassionate or human of us not to offer those kids that are having these issues, even counselors, to talk about it and try to figure it out? Because talking about it and trying to figure out what's going on is not the same thing as going through gender affirming care. And when I asked her that, she didn't go through gender affirming care until she was past 18. So again, I really hope that a lot of Republicans, people in the middle, and just people that are pure ignorant to the transgender community. Oh, and let me just add this last thing. The NCAA, before it lets a transgender person compete in any category, male or female, they had to be on gender blocking hormones for 18 plus months. And before they're allowed to compete in said category, they have to pass certain tests, blood tests. So again, please fucking educate yourselves. Don't listen to these dumbass Republicans who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And remember this too. They really don't give a shit if transgender kids kill themselves.
No, they
that's
don't.
That's literally the bottom line.
Leave
all the other bullshit aside.
Yep.
What they're telling you is that they don't give a fuck if a kid is so confused and that they can't find any help that they kill themselves. So let's just stop all the bullshit and call it what it is. And remember, it's only 0.9% of our population. And literally, we had a president and a fucking political party run an entire goddamn campaign on it. And we had people literally vote on that one fucking issue. But they were fine with letting a felon, fraud, sexual abuser, and accused pedophile be in the White House.
The thing that, we cannot, there's no point in debating is that the right or this mega movement lacks empathy. And that
they lack the education.
They lead with that. Well, but there still has to be empathy towards your neighbor.
Well, that too. Yeah, no, you're
Period.
right.
Just in general, I care about my neighbor and I want to learn about them, whatever case their background is, whatever the case is. But Adam, this makes me ask you, was there ever a job as a business owner in this field that you turned down because you're like, I can't touch this?
We don't take on hate groups, and I'm the one who defines it. So I will just say that we don't take on hateful things. And what I also don't like is I like to punch up. I don't like to punch down. I like to take on big corporations. I like to take on elected officials. I like to take on celebrities, hypocrites, of all shapes, sizes, and political parties. So we work for right, we work for left, but I don't like to punch down to someone who is not and protest people who are not powerful and don't have resources, because I feel like that's kind of mean. So I don't like to take on mean spirited.
Playing a game you know is stacked. Yeah.
You like to play chess, but so you never had like a U-Haul of white boys with like khaki pants like show up at your door and just say, "Hey, we need your help. We need help with our branding." Like, no.
Well, I guess the question was, have you had? Let's ask it as a question.
We got a lot. I mean, I will put it this way, gentlemen. We're the largest protest. Crowds on Demand is the largest protest company in the country. We get basically like
interesting requests.
Yes.
Requests from basically everybody. And it doesn't matter their political views. We keep their information confidential.
Right.
But there's a lot that we choose not to engage with.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at.
But I'm, because I was going to ask you, and you've really answered the question as we've talked over the last hour. I was going to ask you if you had any kind of like, moral issues with, possibly influencing elections. But listening to you talk, I've kind of realized where you're coming from with it and the way that you've explained it, that there really isn't a moral issue. It really is just there's a right way to do it. And it seems to be that you're really trying to do that. And I personally love to hear that you have like a filter system, so to speak. Like you have guidelines. You're like, look, I'm not going to do that. I would assume, let's call it what it is. You were probably being asked, to promote something with, World War II type paraphernalia. And it's kind of like, I'm glad that there are people like you that are willing to say, nope, we're not gonna amplify that. That's not what we're here to do. So I do really appreciate that.
It has to be within a certain reasonable window where I like to advance the common sense position. I'll put it that way. Sometimes that common sense is on the right. Sometimes that common sense is on the left. Sometimes it has nothing to do with politics whatsoever, and it's on behalf of a business. But I don't like to punch down, and I don't like to run mean-spirited efforts.
That's why I like it. That was going to be my biggest personal question. So that was, I don't want to say surprised, but it was pleasant to hear you say that.
But do you see it getting
because
harder?
not every.
And that's what I was going to say.
Good question. Yeah,
because you see right now the landscape of how things are, that it's becoming harder to have those boundaries, harder to have those parameters that you've instilled. It's more of a moral compass in this field that is kind of like it's a bar fight.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is that we I'm very particular about what I'm looking to do. So I've got enough money. Like I don't need to like just take on things just to like pay the bills.
Because you need the money, yeah.
So, I would rather be selective. So I've probably said no to like tens of millions of dollars over the years from different things that I just find reprehensible. And again, their information is safe because I want people to, part of it is I have a very strict set of ethical guidelines. Like, I'm not out there to be like, oh my God, this person who I disagreed with contacted me. No, I'll.
Yeah, you wouldn't have much of a business if you were doing that.
Correct. I would choose not to do that. And in some cases, people might not proceed. And in other cases, they might find kind of unscrupulous operators. And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, that's amazing. And I really appreciate you being so honest here.
Yeah. I appreciate the context too behind everything. Because so, like I said, we really ask questions that a lot of people are asking. And like you said, there's so many people that work 9-to-5 jobs, work 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. They don't have that, the kind of time to go out and protest or even engage in the politics at all. So
when they're being compensated, they do. And they are often really happy and excited for the opportunity to do it, and I think it's awesome. So guys, thanks so much for your
Yes, sir.
This has been a great discussion. Hopefully you'll have me back sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, anything you want to promote while you're here?
If you want to check out the company, Crowds on Demand, www.crowdsondemand.com, or follow me on Twitter at CEO Adam Swart. I'm not going to call it X. It's Twitter. It's Facebook.
That's what I call it too. That makes me happy.
You can't run from the name. It's Twitter, but I am on it. So.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Right there.
Bro,
Adam, absolute pleasure, man. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much.
Gentlemen.
Yes, sir. It was nice meeting you, man. We'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Bye, man, Adam Swart. That was a good show.
First and foremost, show ain't over, and
that's true. We got more to talk about.
There was a couple of little moments there. I just want to ask you real quick. Seems like a Ryan rant was bubbling up, man. You feeling?
Well, the trans stuff. It's triggering. It's really triggering because and that wasn't really directed at him.
No.
Just to be clear, it was just it came up and it's something that's just been on the forefront of my mind. So it wasn't directed at Adam in any way. There's so much lies and ignorance coming out of that side when it comes to the transgender community, and seeing how dangerous it really has made it.
But it's red meat. It's red meat for the base.
It's red meat, man.
And they can't do math, so therefore they think it's bigger than what it really is.
They think there's 10% of Americans are transgender and are coming to steal their children and their, sports and their jobs.
And they don't realize that it's their uncle or their priest.
There you go. They don't realize that there's somebody in their life probably having that struggle, and they're afraid to say anything because they know majority of their family isn't open-minded enough to accept it.
Yeah, right.
So with that said, what's the first thing you want to talk about, brother?
Well, I found that interesting with the paid protesters. Everything that we've always talked about, it really is putting it on the forefront to think about.
Yeah.
What is the incentive? And the question I ask, and I talk about this, we talk about this a lot, is like when you're looking at AI, you have to question, where did this come from? When you look at the stuff that's on social media, where did this come from? Like we are losing as a society. I feel like there's too much access to war and to all this. It's like war porn. The fact that we're just sitting back watching just things blow up left and right. And we're just sitting here and we're critiquing it, or we want to be the first to have a video out addressing it or something. And we're losing the idea of like the pain that's really behind what's happening right now. The loss on both sides that people are going through, that are suffering. And there's a part where I feel like that's what's cheapening this, and where the words are now cheapened, like genocide is just thrown out. Like I've been called genocidal, and I'm like, who the fuck have I killed? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is happening right now that we just need to throw buckets of all this shit where we're cheapening things? And I'm just like, what is happening where we can't even have a dialogue about anything? Regardless, there's no room for a teachable moment. There's no room to educate, anything like that. And listening to him, Adam, talk about this, it's just like, it really does bring home maybe a lot for me personally about the attack on the Black dynamic, the Black family. Because when you look at why they go after Black men, why they are sought after for prison life, when you think about the 13th Amendment, when you think about the 14th Amendment, when you think about these elements that are there, and we've talked about this, especially with Juneteenth just in the rear view, the 13th Amendment says that, everybody is free except if found guilty of a crime. And then you look at the percentage of, and that's clearly not verbatim, but that's summing it up.
Yeah.
But there is a word, except if found guilty. And when you think about people being prosecuted at a higher rate, you think about who's being filled with the prisons, you think about who
and who's in charge with filling
the
them.
privatized prisons that should not be a business. Some things should not be businesses in America.
100%.
Medical, not a business. Prisons, not a business.
And by the way, medical, the doctors is who should be making the money. Like, it shouldn't be the insurance companies. I don't have a problem the person cutting me open, saving my life, making money.
Facts.
Like, pay them well.
Facts.
Pay
who the
them
fuck
well.
Is Janice over here who's handling accounts payable?
Pay the person that's putting me under well. Pay the nurses that are taking care of me. Pay them well. The insurance companies can go fuck themselves.
Right.
They're not helping me.
Yeah, because they definitely aren't showing up with the check when you need it.
Hell no.
A lot of that is kind of on my mind, and I think about like what he said about the unions. I think about as Joe Biden, his last year as president, how many of these bubbled up protests happened.
Yeah.
I do feel that his mind was wandering. There is an element of age, but I do think, as we've talked about in past episodes, about how he kept the world together, especially in a moment of need. He lowered the temperature.
But he had a decent administration around him. And
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
He had put real serious people who deserved and worked their ass off to be
and
there.
Wanted the job
and are in the room where we're seeing this mediocre white man. And you're not a mediocre white man, so I can say that shit on the show. And I just had this conversation with some folks on my own personal social media that felt like they wanted to address me, not knowing who the fuck I am. And so you're welcome.
Ian's found his voice. Yeah.
I have never lost it. You're welcome.
No, but you could find a bullhorn now.
You definitely toot, motherfucker. So when you think about, a lot of these dynamics and just in general, how it comes down to really someone funding and hearing someone say, oh, that's a Soros, blah, 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 or this pay protester. Like when you hear it and you start thinking like, okay, I don't need to diminish what they're saying about that. But at the same time, why are they saying it? Like, we don't ask why. Me hanging out with my little man, he's at that phase in his life where everything's why. And why really does break down an entire fucking argument. Yeah. Because they will wire your ass into a corner and you're like, just shut the fuck up, kid. Like, it's like, but
it
doesn't
it's like, end at 9 and 11. It doesn't end.
And you got to keep on hitting the why. And you're like, but why aren't we asking why? Why?
That's a good point.
Why?
So, like, why really did we bomb
everybody?
Why did we bomb Iran?
Why?
So, codenamed Operation Midnight Hammer, U.S. forces dropped 14 massive 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs via B-2 Spirit bombers, primarily at Fordo, with additional strikes at Natanz and Isfahan. I'm sure I didn't pronounce those right. I'm sorry. Supported by Tomahawk missiles launched from U.S. subs. The strikes marked the first ever direct U.S. military action on Iranian soil since 1979. The president publicly declared the sites completely and totally obliterated, asserting they would delay Iran's nuclear program for decades. A preliminary U.S. intelligence report concluded the bombs only set back Iran's nuclear efforts by a few months, contradicting Trump's claim of total destruction. Key military figures, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio, acknowledged the leak intel report was authentic, suggesting damage was less severe, though they defended the strike's precision. Iran said, "You can't bomb away knowledge," in response. To me, that was, they said a lot more, but that sentence stood out to me more than anything else.
It carries a lot of weight.
It really does, because it was like, you guys can keep bombing us, but you're not, we know how to make this shit. And you haven't gotten the materials.
They moved it.
Like, yeah, they got it
We
on
knew-
satellite. They moved it
We
days
knew they
prior.
moved it. This is the part where
Dude, they didn't even knock out the roads around the one facility. The one that had the roads all around it. The roads were still good.
Why? You know why?
If it was so precise, why didn't you motherfuckers hit anything?
Well, it's all mediocre, individuals who are in this job. Pete was probably drunk, literally throwing darts at the map, just saying where we should strike. And the thing that I really take in consideration is that they lied about whatever. Then they released information, and now that information has been outsourced, whatever, and now it's in the
Somebody's
news.
definitely on the inside leaking information on purpose.
Probably is Hegseth. He's probably drunk Dr. Jekyll and Mr.
Accidentally
Hyde.
sending it out.
You know
I
what
loved Carolyn Levitt. She was like, we're going to find these leakers and hold them accountable. I was like, you guys didn't care when Trump took all those classified documents.
He's right there.
70
He's right behind
boxes.
He's right behind you. Right behind you.
Now all of a sudden it's a problem.
Now all of a sudden. And this is the thing that I really think about, man. I'm there's a lot on my mind when I think about those documents at his Mar-a-Lago, the people who were in governments, foreign governments who were visiting Mar-a-Lago. Okay. We don't know what happened. Then you have the situation of all these wars that are breaking out. And now you have Trump talking about he's going to finish it in one day. Clearly did not. Then he does whatever this stunt is, because there's a lot happening here in America right now.
Like Adam just said, look over here.
Your health insurance for some folks is on the chopping block by this weekend.
Yep.
But we want to talk about some made up bullshit where he just drops a bomb. Just drops a bomb, whatever, how many bombs he dropped.
And the way he talks,
On
like, you only
empty
dropped
sites.
14? Like, I would have thought it was 14 per location the way he talks. But hey.
I wonder if he had his name on it.
But the best part was the ceasefire deal.
Yeah.
That lasted a whopping
2 minutes?
two.
Not even?
I don't even think it was an hour.
There's that meme where my man throws the three, sees it about to go in, it bounces,
Turns
in the rim,
around and it bounces out.
and then it bounces out. It's
saw
like
that
that's Trump's media, man. That's Trump's situation.
Look,
I go, that's perfect. That's exactly it.
The fact that Netanyahu had Donald Trump standing on the White House lawn dropping an F-bomb because he made Trump look like an idiot.
Egg on his face.
I thought
and
that
we were
was
just
great.
talking about it. We were talking about
We
it.
just talked about it.
We said, who's going to have egg on their face? Is it Trump? Is it JD Vance? Who's going to have egg on their face? Is it going to be Netanyahu? It's Trump.
It's Trump.
And you could
per
tell
usual.
he's upset. You could tell he's upset.
Oh, he's very upset.
None of
Very
this is
upset.
going the way
they
that
don't
he
know what
thought.
they're doing. No, they know exactly what they're doing, and they're
don't
playing you for a
know-
fucking fool.
They don't know what the fuck they are doing. And that was on C-SPAN.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
Everywhere.
I have somebody who shares my stuff, and she amplifies a lot of my stuff. And the one request she made is, don't tag me in anything with the F-bomb.
Okay.
And I was like, because I tagged her in one of my rants, and she's like, I don't like that. And I was like, understood. And I wasn't thinking, because I was thinking I didn't use the F-bomb. Wasn't thinking that Trump did. She sent me back a message. She's like, usually I wouldn't post this. She's like, but I just can't believe that he had, the audacity to do that. She's like, so I posted it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she's like, no, don't be sorry. She's like, it wasn't you. She's like, I can't believe the president just did that. And I'm like, that's where we're at.
Because I don't think I've ever heard any president. Not in a press conference.
Not that I
not
can.
in a, like, in that president, like, is it behind
on a hot
the
mic
scenes?
maybe, or something like that.
Exactly.
But like you're
okay.
literally talking to a reporter about
The world.
another leader and
to the world.
a military conflict.
Yeah.
Dropping an F-bomb. And somebody else pointed this out, that is a sign of, okay, let me rephrase my wording.
Because we say fuck a lot on this show. So
well,
what
we
do you
do.
say?
But somebody else was pointing out that it can also be a sign of dementia. People not controlling their language the way that they used to. And then seeing what he said today about calling another leader daddy or something, it's like, oh, go look it up. Go look it up. And then there's MAGA people posting online that they should start calling Trump daddy now.
I mean, look, we already knew that was going to happen when they did the little ear patches and everything. So we already know how they operate. But
that should, that should have been the point where we realized that maybe we are in some trouble.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
Looking back,
that's where, no, we already knew. We already knew that was the case. What I would like to see is if Trump can test this theory with snake venom and also walking off a cliff. Because I love to watch lemmings just follow the leader. Is all I'm saying. Just
There's going to be a lot of people that are going to struggle after this is all done because it's not going to end well.
No.
There's no, if we go for another 3 years of this shit, it's not going to end well.
no.
And I'll also bet that Carolyn Levitt and a lot of the other people that you see in the administration right now, that they will be gone by the time this is over, just like the first administration.
Oh, she's going to get a Fox show probably within another year. I think Carol Levitt is going to be.
Well, I can't
she's
say
gonna
shit because
bounce.
Jen Psaki went to MSNBC, but
And that's exactly what I was going to use. Jen Psaki was a perfect example.
yeah.
Things were going the way they were going, and then she was like, "Okay, I find my out." She got her show, and now
Well,
she is what
to
she
be
is.
fair, she did say that she was only going to do 12 months from the jump, and she ended up doing, I think, 18.
Okay.
So when she initially took that job,
She knew he had
she
dementia.
she had given them because she had a family. She has a young family. Shut up. But she has a young family, so she was like,
When
it's a
he
lot
called
to do
me
that job.
Janice, I said, "Okay, I'm gonna do 12 months of this, and I'm out."
It's
Why do
funny.
you keep calling me Janice? I'm gonna do 12 months. Whatever,
Yeah.
whatever, Mr. President. No, yes, the young family aspect, everything about it. I mean, it totally makes sense, and it's a steadier job. It's not as stressful. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a little more scripting.
I mean, I don't know what comes with doing her show, but yeah.
A team and interns. Okay.
Yeah,
Like,
probably.
like,
Yeah,
it's good. She
she's
has a
probably
kid.
not doing all the legwork. Like,
No.
yeah,
No, she was doing a lot of work, which we
Yeah.
all know when you're in that position. And then you're dealing with the press who are just assholes. Let's be serious.
and it is. Let's be honest. It is. I'm sure that there is a responsibility sitting behind, a desk on MSNBC as well. That you
Yes.
might, but there's probably a lot of producers and shit that are in her ear. When you're working as the White House press secretary, your job is to report
Proxy.
to us,
Yes.
the people. So
Yes.
I'm sure that there was a lot more concern on her end, making sure that she didn't put out things that she couldn't explain.
Right.
And I will say, I didn't have a terrible problem with St. Pierre. St. Pierre. I'm watching too much UFC fights.
I know
Corinne
you-
Jean-Pierre, thank you. And I didn't have a problem with a lot of her job, but I will say that she was not as masterful at dealing with, like Fox News, that
Right.
Ducey or whatever his name is. Like,
Yeah.
it just wasn't the same.
No.
Jen Psaki had a way of just shutting him up in a way that, eight
With
times,
this stare. She would just stare at him.
times out of 10, you were just like, ooh, yeah.
Yep. I'm rewind that.
Yep.
Rewind it.
Uh,
So that's a big thing.
Speaking
What-
of young families, though,
Yeah.
let's move on to our anti-abortion lawmaker who blamed Democrats after docs delayed her life-saving abortion care.
So, welcome to Hold the Mic. If you guys are new to the show, we do a thing called Stop Making People Famous. Stop Making Stupid People Famous. We thought we'd want to bring that back for this episode. Ryan is talking about a certain situation. We've just watched the Republican Party force this on all of America, which is the whole abortion conversation. We watched the Supreme Court remove Roe v. Wade, which was law of the land. So after 50 years? Yeah. About 50 years. And so
It was
when
3-year
we're talking-
anniversary of that getting thrown out like a day or two ago, by the way.
And so we're talking about this into the context of we just watched Trump, who picked the Supreme Court justices who stripped that law of the land. And then every state now go through and try to remove this law, rip it up. Ohio, for some reason, needs to stop smoking meth because the people there literally voted for it to be solidified. What is it called?
Codified?
Codified. Thank you. Codified into their state constitution, and they are bringing it up again for it to be removed. Again, Ohio, stop smoking crack. Like this
That
is
sounds like
seriously-
something that could happen in Arizona.
And guess what? This is what they're trying to do. They are they're constantly trying to test it and change it and tweak it.
Oh, they're definitely
people keep
testing
voting.
everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're trying everything. And this is the beauty of 50 states. They have 50 fucking opportunities to try something out and bring it around.
And all they need is
But-
one precedent.
And all they need is one president. And the thing is that Ohio is trying its hardest. So for this story to happen in Florida, the Sunshine State, where they absolutely voted against abortion care, about women's health, let's be serious, this Republican lawmaker. Ryan, take it away.
Quickly, just shout out to all my Canadian friends. So Rep. Kat Kamak, I don't know how to fuck her name.
Kat Katmick.
She's a Republican representative from Florida, as Ian said. She claimed that fear-mongering was the reason health professionals were confused about her state's strict abortion ban. Kamak, who opposes abortion, blamed the wariness of her doctors on the left, not on the abortion ban itself. She told the Wall Street Journal that the left's messaging around the law had made healthcare workers paranoid about criminal penalties. It was absolute fear-mongering at its worst, she said. She is now pregnant again, due in mid-August. So this one's for all the people who said, well, they won't get it until it affects them. Right. They still won't fucking get it.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. If their family members get picked up by ICE, they still don't get it. If they have an ectopic pregnancy like this woman that damn near kills her, and then she calls her state governor and asks him to help and they don't pick up, maybe you guys shouldn't have made it so doctors are practicing medicine under a constant fear of litigation. Did you ever think of that? That just maybe you guys shouldn't be meddling in women's decisions of what they do with their bodies, or a doctor's decision of what is best for a woman and her body. And the fact that this woman is a lawmaker and had the audacity to sit there and blame liberals, Democrats, the left, for her ectopic pregnancy, and the doctors not feeling comfortable giving her a medication to create an abortion to save her life.
To follow the laws of their land that she so eloquently voted for.
So it's she got her medication after hours of arguing with the doctors, but it's so here you are, you've dealt with this, you've now personally experienced exactly what Democrats said would be the problem, and you still aren't going to say, you know what, maybe this wasn't a good idea?
And I say this is a woman who has a seat at the table.
Yep.
So a hint of power.
Yep. And all the conservatives love her.
And this happened to you. So imagine the girl that has no help, no assistance, nobody there, no power, no table. This is the element where why I say they lack empathy. Even it affecting you, you have to project onto somebody else because you can't see that you, madam, fucked up and you played yourself. Yeah. And every girl in your state.
Yep.
And that's why
way to go, Florida.
Stupid people famous.
So, yep, that was a good stop making stupid people famous today. That was good. Because, shout out to Bunny. She actually sent me that story before you did. She sent me that yesterday, and then I actually sent her a screenshot, and I was like, look, Ian sent me the same thing this morning. So
actually, I sent it to you a couple of days ago.
Shut up.
You just didn't notice.
Well, that's the point. I didn't notice. So she sent it to me first. Shut up.
Tons of shit to you. But I love Buns. What up, Buns?
That's the problem. You send so much.
I send you a lot of shit.
We both do. I can't say I don't do the same. But we talk a lot of shit about Republicans on this show, but I think we need to take a second and kind of hold our own a little accountable for a second.
Woohoo! Who are we calling out?
128 fucking Democrats. That's who we're calling out.
Okay.
So let me ask you, bro, because clearly you see where I stand on it.
You're wearing a lot of red today. Should I be worried?
No, and I will not be wearing this at the protest July 4th either.
Okay. Or the barbecue.
I mean, the barbecue, I think. Well, barbecue might need to be blue.
When y'all see Ryan Crip walking, that's all I gotta say.
Coming. And yes, I do know how to. Let me ask you this though: how did it make you? What was your initial first thought when you saw that 128 Democrats voted not to follow through with Rep. Green's impeachment motion, I should say. Sorry.
Impeach for Trump. I think it's too soon. I'm not interested in impeachment right now. I'm
Okay.
not. I'm not. And the reason why I say that is because, he's had that implemented within the first month. So it really wasn't based off of something. What I wish they would have done is I wish those 128 would have got off their fucking ass back in November, between November and January, and actually looked at the swing states and looked at the information and data of what's going on.
Challenged it.
And challenged every step of the way.
We were too concerned with not coming off as conspiracy theorists.
I'm tired of being concerned about optics.
Yeah.
Get in the fucking fight. So if you're going to have impeachment, articles of impeachment, we did that dance. It's not going anywhere right now. What I want people to put their energy into looking into this election, and then you impeach this motherfucker when you put that on blast that this shit was whatever. And then you don't only just impeach him, you impeach everybody down, even going to Mike Johnson. You get rid of all these fucking people.
Yep.
Down the line, because he's the third seat.
Yeah, you got to get rid of all of them.
And the thing that is terrifying to me is, okay, you impeach Trump. What happens next? Well, guess what? The number 2 guy comes. And he's backed by a different billionaire, not Elon Musk. He's backed by Peter Thiel. And nobody knows, for some reason, this individual. He started PayPal with Musk back in the day. He's the one who's looking at collecting all of your data and actually looking into all of us, including people on this show, everybody who is becoming the opposition. And he's looking at collecting all of our data.
Well, thanks. We just lost 1,000 followers.
Bye, guys. It just dropped instantly. Just dropped. But Peter Thiel is a lot more dangerous in my mind because of what he wants to do. And
he's more dangerous because he's more stable mentally.
He's more stable, and he's also quiet. People don't really know who
Yeah,
he is.
He's in the backgrounds.
No,
you're 100% right about that.
And so say we.
And that's how JD Vance fucking kind of came out of nowhere.
He literally funded JD Vance.
The movie, all of
everything. All the book deal, all of it. He positioned JD. When you think of that show with Kevin Spacey, the president one,
House Cards.
House of Cards. Thank you. And I know that was a remake, an American remake of a British show. When you think of that,
I didn't know that.
It was a remake, yeah, and just like The Office, right?
I was like, all these good shows were remakes of.
Yeah. America, man, we take everybody's shit.
We appropriate everybody's shit.
We appropriate all of it. Come on, man, we're colonizers, man. Come on. So we found America. You know what I mean? We found it. We found America.
Found it and turned it into this.
So it's one of those things where, I think about that show in the context of like watching people position themselves to a seat at the table of power and what they are willing to do, and we've talked about this. Veshti, is it Veshti? Is that his wife? JD Vance's wife. She's hungry for power. She can never be president, clearly, right? She's an immigrant. But at the same time, her being the second lady and then possibly being the first, just much like Melania Trump. That's thirsty. That exists, and we know she's the brains behind JD. JD is not that smart. Again, smoking crack, Ohio. Really maybe that's the Michigan in me talking that mad shit. But, there's a thirst for power and you see it. They're very thirsty. So I don't care, Ryan, to get back to your original question. I don't care about impeachment right now. I don't. What I want them to strike down this fucking bill. I want them to do whatever it takes. I want people to be on your platform of how do you do a 180 on this situation? How does that pendulum swing heavy to the left? Universal health care, being paid for your data. All these things that seem alien right now to those who are working a 9 to 5, but not realizing how fast AI is going to do leaps and bounds and how it's going to take away and affect people's jobs.
I'm seeing it.
You know what I mean? Like it's there. It is literally there.
I use it daily now. I use it daily.
Whose job is going to suffer first? We asked the question about what we see online, what we see at protests. The fact that as a community, as a society, we need to be paying more attention and being more cynical of what we're actually seeing, hearing. Hell, with Robert F. Kennedy, what we're tasting, what's going into our bodies, we need to be more cynical. You know,
Yeah. Hell, it
this
happened
is
to me yesterday. I made a post about Kyle Rittenhouse. Where is he? And somebody posts a photo of him looking like he swallowed a fucking bus. Like he put on, a decent amount of weight. It wasn't like crazy. It was believable. And I posted it and I was like, does anybody know if this is real? Because like all of his social media vanished. Like his
oh,
like Twitter, everything's gone.
he's going through a rebrand.
Sounds like it. So
Yeah.
I guess he's down in Texas running some pro-gun something or other. But anyway, somebody found the real photo of him. And I was like, see, this is why we really do have to ask, is this real?
Why?
Because
That's
it can look, and when you compare it to the other one, literally, it just looks like they added 30, 40 pounds. Like it's believable.
Yeah.
And right now we're able to see like, oh, that, they got 6 fingers or there's
I would
3
say
feet.
that 5th toe. It's
Yeah,
like, what?
yeah. So right now we can still kind of pick out AI photos, but as that evolves, as you just said,
Yeah.
it's going to become almost impossible for us to detect it. Like we're going to need something to load it up into like Google search and be like,
Yeah.
is this AI?
Yeah. And how many people will know how to do that or think that way immediately because everybody's in a rush? There was a video of after the bombing in Iran. There was a video, AI video. It showcases a black soldier woman surrounded by most diverse army I've ever seen, right? How could this possibly come from the mega camp, right? Of them and their views on DEI or whatever that means to them. Realistically, and they're chanting, talking about how they did it, mission accomplished, blah blah blah, great job, soldiers. He got shared 900-something thousand shares, and then it's like, guys, this is fake. This is and they're talking about how AI videos have a lot of sun shining behind them in the backdrop, so then you get the glare, the photo glare, so that helps to disguise some of the CGI-ness.
Yep.
But it's like, yeah, man, it's like people have to be a little bit more and maybe the people just wanted to share it because it made them feel good, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But it's like, do you understand what?
But in terms of politics, we need to be more careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've gotten bit and I've gotten to a point now where I don't take it personal. Yeah. Like when somebody's like, oh, that's okay. Like we all got to realize that that's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah.
But it really is about, okay, but are you going to, somebody said, well, you should just delete it. And I was like, I don't think that's, I said, I would rather update it, especially if it went viral.
Disclaimer, this is fake,
because it's already been screenshotted. It's already been, so it's like, why just take it down and let everybody else repost it and say, look at this dumbass. No, let me be able to say, you know what, clearly this was fake. It was pointed out, my bad. Like correct yourself. And that's what I think a lot of us, online need to be, start getting more comfortable with doing. Like, it's okay. Like
to be wrong.
Yeah, like this AI shit, we're all treading this water, this new water together, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. So it's like, I have gotten to a point where I have a little bit more grace for people, because if they're not doing it knowingly, then that's just an honest, whatever. And to me, then it's like, what's your response? Do you correct it in the comments, or do you just keep letting it do its thing?
Right.
That's where I measure you up is, okay, now that you know it's fake, now what's going to be your action? That's the part where I focus on. It's not, we all post shit that's ends up being AI or photoshopped or whatever. Like AI is Photoshop on steroids.
Right.
So, we just all need to have a little bit more. And like you said, we all have to change the mindset of being a little more inquisitive about, is this real?
Ask the why, man.
Exactly.
This little young dude is teaching me a lot right now, man. Just how to see the world with new eyes. Like it really is. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, speaking of seeing the world with new eyes, the New York mayor primary results came out yesterday.
Yeah.
And you being a New Yorker yourself,
couldn't vote.
Damn independence.
This is my first time. This is my first time since. Because so backstory real quick, and someone actually just wrote to me, you're not going to post about, this new positive. I go, why would I be a fraud? I couldn't vote. This shouldn't be my moment.
I didn't vote. I still posted about it.
My reasoning is I don't want to be a fraud. I'm not taking shots at you. I'm just saying.
No, I know.
Being in New York, like I cannot participate in this victory because I was, if anything, not allowed, and it made me really question, Like, hold on a second. If an independent voter is a swing voter, shouldn't we be allowed to vote in every single election possible?
We are in majority of the states. Yeah, there's 13 plus Washington, D.C. But the presidential primaries are different. That's even more strict. It's something like 22 states that independents can't participate. It's really interesting. And what's the crappy part about that is, of course, every state can conduct their elections differently.
Right.
So every state can say, oh, we're not going to let independents
We have an
a
open
say.
election. We have same day
And
registration.
I have a particular problem with that for presidents.
Yeah.
Like Congress, stuff like that. Like, that's where you're supposed to get your representative on the party side, in my opinion. President's supposed to represent America. They're supposed to represent and work for all of us. Hopefully that's what all of Congress is, but we know that that's not the case. So to me, it's like, I think everybody should be able to vote in the presidential primary. I don't think that should have any, I don't give a fuck what party you're in. Yeah. But below that, yeah, fine. You're voting on your congressman because you want them to go represent your best interests and what your views and that's fine. Yeah. But the president, everybody should be able to vote on that primary.
But so I mean, yes, I really agree with you. What I found here interesting about New York is that you had a legacy, and I hate Nepo babies. I cannot stand legacy. I don't care for this dynasty of Cuomo, right?
It's like, just because your dad was good doesn't mean you are.
And it's like, you had his father, you had him, he did his thing. He was good. Loved him
until he wasn't.
He was good until he wasn't. And in that moment, this isn't your comeback fucking year. This isn't your comeback story. No one cares. This is not that world anymore. And, I don't know why you would want to go governor to mayor. I feel like he
just wanted to get his foot back in the door.
And that's exactly what it was. What I will give to the young man, Zoran, for this is that that gives me hope about now a new generation coming in, our generation, right? He's a young.
He engaged the young voters, man.
He's a young millennial.
33?
35.
I thought he was 33.
I thought he was 35. Let's find out, shall we?
Who wins on today's episode of Wheel of Hold the Mic? But Zoran Mamdani is a Muslim born in Uganda, and he arrived in the United States at the age of 7.
And became 33. You're right. 33.
And became a naturalized citizen. See, I do my homework. I wouldn't have said that if I was wrong. Mamdani became a naturalized citizen in 2018. And that's one of the main reasons I think MAGA are losing it, and they're looking for everything on this guy right now, comparing him winning to 9/11 and all sorts of weird shit. Now, granted, him being a Muslim, we'll see if anything, whatever comes out. I would think that if anything crazy were to come out, it probably would have during the primary, but we'll see.
It seems like nothing comes out during the primaries or any of this shit. It seems like everything comes out now after.
They save it till like when it, yeah.
I'm just saying,
but I would think that Como, if they had anything on him, they would have. I
didn't say he would have anything. I'm saying just shit coming out.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like if there was something really crazy, like Como and them would have found it and dropped it. But
I'm interested to see what this young man does. Is what I'm interested to do.
Hey, I liked what he said when he was standing up there. He's like, "Look, I'm gonna represent all New Yorkers, whether you voted for me or not."
Yeah,
And I hope his actions follow.
I was going to say, I hope his actions follow. There is a uncertainty with all this just because of his past.
Well, we should all be skeptic, I think.
And that's the thing.
I'm very skeptical. Any politician, but yeah.
And that's what I was going to say about Democrats is we do not really get on the bandwagon of like, I'm not rocking no shirts, no gear, no nothing. Like we're not
you got to show me something. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to really make me believe in you and your vision. And I got to see it. I got to experience it. If he starts taking care of what the rents are, if he, I've never had slumlords. I've had nothing but amazing individuals here in New York who really have treated this as a community, love their community, and actually were very choosy about who they allowed into their apartments. And they were willing to let it sit not being rented because you were not the right candidate for the community. And I've seen them make their mistakes and rectify that, really go back through, get rid of the people that were horrible in those communities. And rightfully so, and put the right candidate in there. So I'm interested to see how he approaches, being a mayor. He's young. I just talked to some local New Yorkers, and they had fear of his age. And I said, well, why are you afraid of new ideas? What is
Why
it
are you
about
afraid
it?
of 33, but you're not afraid of 80?
Afraid of 33, people have this idea that young people, we don't know what we're doing, right? And I get it to an extent. Keep in mind that we are going up against baby boomers who are not willing to let go of power, not willing to see us as now being mature. Like, I'm 40 and my mom still probably thinks I'm her baby. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's like
that never changes.
But that's their generation. They see it as like, no, I'm still fit. I'm still going out. I'm still doing, this is baby boomer generation.
Yeah.
Trump doesn't look like he's slowing down. Well, actually, correction. Let me make that right now. Trump looks like he is slowing way down.
I was gonna say, fast. I saw him getting out of the car in Netherlands, and he had a couple of
The way he's talking is slowing down.
Well, and he's saying even more outlandish shit. Like,
yes.
It's almost like I said, it's almost like he's losing control of what he says in front of this and what he says behind closed doors.
And it's fast, and he can't keep up now with that, with whatever.
I don't think so.
He can't, and it's night and day, where it's like he's reminding me now of Biden at that debate,
like the last year, yeah.
You know what I mean? That debate. I'm like, ooh, what's going? Like fast.
Yeah.
So, I'm interested to see what this young man does. Cuomo, like I said, I was anything is better than the current situation. First and foremost, anything is better.
My biggest thing too was this, though. And whether Mondani was the one or it was one of the other candidates, if you're a Democrat and you're wagging your finger at Donald Trump and MAGA for supporting, said person that we know as a sexual abuser and, all these things. Like, we've got it on tape. It's well documented. Like, Cuomo was accused of 11 plus, inappropriate things with women.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, so if you're willing to vote for him because he's a Democrat, does that make you any better than the MAGA that's voting for Trump?
It's an honest question, man.
It's
an honest question.
And that was really my thing.
My biggest thing with him is why him, and people found stability. But I'm like, you're willing to overlook this man's character.
You're willing to do everything that the Republicans do with Trump.
Well, but see, the thing that I find different is that I think it's actually more nefarious from the left, because I really just think the MAGA is just stupid. I think there's just a trolling lack of empathy, where I think from the left it's calculated. I think it's one of those things where they actually compartmentalize.
That's fair.
I am going to vote for this person knowing, understanding, processed, and still I'm going to set that aside because I feel like this person with his age and his wisdom and his track record as a governor makes him a better candidate.
Yep.
That's what I heard from the left with my conversations.
That's pretty much what I heard.
Where when I talk to the right, it's, fuck them libs. I'm like, what? I just asked how your day is, man.
There's no reasoning behind it. It's just
nothing.
It's all feeling.
There is an element of yearning to belong.
Yeah.
And that's what you get from MAGA versus what you get from a liberal. Because a liberal, from this entire experience, I have never felt more isolated now being back into independent. And the reason I actually say that to you is that I was independent for the longest, I think from the beginning. Yes. And the reason why I joined the Democratic Party was because of Bernie Sanders. Because I couldn't vote in the primary. And I was like, I want him to get up there in the race. I'm going to be a Democrat. And I stayed lingering, thinking maybe I can change things from the inside. And then I quickly watched how all this kind of fumbled. Talking with you, doing this show, what we just witnessed with Kamala, which we're really on the fence about.
Yeah.
And you really did put me up on it, where you're like, the no Kingsian, to see this many people. This
They're not all
amount,
paid.
This amount of shift of people moving as one voice versus that little rinky dink, tiny dick energy parade. I can't imagine that America would shift that drastically from
in
election
4 months,
to now.
5 months.
That's the part that I'm really trying to wrap, because he didn't do anything so drastically crazy
To cause
right?
this kind of a
That
reaction.
shift, that reaction where everybody's in an uproar.
Maybe
Yes,
this
he's done-
week. Maybe this week, but yeah.
and I really, Ryan, I'm thinking about that because it's like, even now he's still like, what he's doing is not changing minds in mega.
No.
You know what I mean? But what I mean by this is rounding up, any type of Latin individual, like,
Oh yeah, most of them are for that.
mega does not really like, Joe Rogan is recently saying, like, this is not what we voted for, but it's like,
Yeah, he's come out
It
against
is.
Trump a couple times now.
but this, how can you not, right? You know what I mean? That shows.
But again,
see-
that goes back to if Kamala would have gone on the Joe Rogan show, he would have had something else.
which we always talked about.
Yeah, and at first I thought that it was a good move, but again, that was one of those retrospectively looking back is like, nah, yeah, you should have gone on there and challenged him.
There. Because looking at Joe, he would have probably respected you more. He probably would have talked about it more. He probably would have promoted it.
And I
more.
will say that, like, yeah, Joe Rogan can be a dumbass a lot,
Yeah.
and push some stupid
or
shit.
play a dumbass.
Yeah, but I will say that when somebody sits down with him, like I've watched him have a conversation with Neil deGrasse Tyson,
Yes.
and I'm like, this dude can have an intelligent conversation with an intelligent person,
Yeah.
and not sound like a dumb fuck. So clearly, some of it is just like you said. Is it producers for his show? Is it, but then you go watch his comedy set, and he does say some of the same shit. So he clearly thinks it. But again, it's one of those things where, but this is what we're starting to see. When you're starting to see people like Joe Rogan go, is this really what we wanted?
This is the start.
This is the start.
Because
you're and Marjorie Taylor Greene coming out and saying this isn't it. Now she may have changed her mind after she got her pee-pee slapped the next morning, but you can't take back what you went out and said. Because you said pretty much
that clip is in rotation. Yeah.
You said pretty much what a lot of Americans were saying. That was one time where I was actually going, Marjorie Taylor Greene's not wrong.
Which is weird that this is the parallel universe.
It made me feel dirty.
Right now. I was about to say.
It made me feel dirty. But I have to be fair and give it to her. She was saying what a lot of Americans should have been saying.
Yeah. Which makes me wonder. Is she just playing the fool, or is she a fool? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think she's stupid. I think she's just evil. But I think even an evil person can be on the right side of an issue every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. She's
evil. She's evil. Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, they're just.
Lauren Boebert is not evil. She's just not a smart.
Well, she's off sniffing lines with Kid Rock. So
yeah. Oh my God. They deserve each other. Okay, that's all I gotta say.
Dude went from Pamela Anderson to Lauren Boebert.
Both roughly around the trailer park, scent. You know what I mean? It's roughly there. There.
Pamela Anderson though, she's, I don't know. I've become a fan of hers of late.
Oh, Pam is amazing. No, Pam now is amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm saying she shed herself of all that bullshit.
She really did. Like
I'm just saying, you see Kid Rock has not, and you see Lauren Boebert has definitely doubled down.
Yeah, that's
10 toes down.
That's fair.
That's being a trailer park.
I was gonna say, because Pamela Anderson, she really has, she really distanced herself from that and really changed,
transcended from everything.
I'm not gonna say she changed who, maybe that's who she always was, and we just all got to see a different side that she didn't want everybody to see. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
but it's really interesting to see where things are going right now.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
hopefully.
Hopefully this is a positive for New York, and hopefully it's a positive for the party. Hopefully they learned something from his campaign, because clearly it worked a little bit. So let's take the positives that we can.
I'm gonna be honest, man. Someone needs to start paying attention to your platform, as in what you really put out there as running for president.
I know, man.
And looking at how that right there could be Project 2028 down ballot. And looking at what that would actually bring to the table.
Yeah.
It's not far off.
No. And it's not, I go back and I look at that list a couple of times. And for those of you who are wondering what we're talking about, I made a list, said I was running for president. I listed out, all the things that were on the top of my head at that moment. And so many of you added so many other great issues that to add to the platform.
Yeah.
But I do go back and look at that because it's like, why are these so controversial? Why are 90% of the things I put on there not something that all Americans are for? And I really do keep going back and asking myself that question as I look at that list, because to me, those are things that we should all be fighting for, not just for ourselves, but our kids, our future, the future of this country. We can't keep giving all of our money to, 10, 12 people in the country and let them run everything and think that that's going to be what's best for Americans. It's not.
Who do you think's paying for those protesters?
Well, exactly. So with that said, what's your positives this week, brother?
I get to do an impromptu trip to Detroit tomorrow morning.
Nice.
Flying home, doing a couple things.
Dude, I'm dying to go home.
It's you know what's going to be my positive. I'm going to have my my first Verners in a long time. Last time I had one, I think I choked on this show.
You did.
Go back and watch this episode.
Yeah, that was funny as shit.
I'm looking forward to getting my next Werner. So I will not be speaking when I open it. I'll be opening it away from my face. So yeah, I'm looking forward to my next Werners in Detroit. So in that Motown air, that Motown pollution, baby. Sign me up.
Yeah, smells like home.
So that's gonna be my positive, man. So I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
Yeah, how about you, man? What's going on?
My positive is it's Jen's birthday week.
Ooh.
So we're celebrating her birthday.
She's like Benjamin Button. She's looking younger and younger with it.
Bro, because she goes to U of A, for school, and her a couple of her professors, when they found out how old she was, they were like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah." They're like, "We thought you were 30." It's like, no, she's pushing 50.
Yeah.
But no, she looks great and looks 10 years younger than I do.
Yeah.
But no, so we're just celebrating her, and none of what I'm doing would be possible without her. She's given me 2 beautiful kids, destroyed her body to do so, and just very thankful.
But not her mind.
Nope. Well, she might argue that a little bit, but no. So just thankful for her, man. I know we talk a lot privately about our wives and the fact that they give us the space to do this and pick up the slack, and give us the hours that we need. Because it's not just the hour or 2 that we do the show. It's prep. It's getting guests, all of it. So we're always busy, and so if we're not at home taking care of things, somebody's got to do it, and it's usually our wives. So just very thankful for her, and thankful for her mom for having her. So that's my positive this week.
Thanks, Ma Dukes. That's
man.
Everything, man. Well, happy birthday to Jen, man. Happy birthday to Jen. And I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing some of the photos.
Yeah, I'll send you guys some photos for sure.
So that's gonna be everything.
But yeah, man, safe travels, my
There's
friend.
Ma Dukes right there on the page.
There you go.
No, I'm serious. There's Ma Dukes.
Oh, is she not? Where? Oh, there's your mom.
Yeah, Ma Dukes.
When is mine too? When is Jen's birthday? Mine is. I'll text you and tell you. I'll text you and tell you when hers is.
But Ma Dukes' birthday. That's why I'm going home. It's her birthday.
Nice. Project 5150, getting him out of office. Oh yeah. MTG is a traitor to women. She's a traitor to Americans, honestly, but yeah, definitely women. But with that, that's a good positive. Enjoy your trip. Be safe. I'm going to enjoy some pool time with the kids this weekend. Enjoy the birthday. And we're going to be out protesting here in Tucson on July 4th. Ooh. So get ready. You guys can go barbecue later in the day. Let's show up in the morning and let them know that we're still here, we're still pissed off, and we still expect some action. So with that, I'll leave you, as I always do, with much love, keep fighting, but most importantly, stay safe out there. Uh-oh.